And we're looking at Mary Kay and Vili Falau. Now, this is the unusual couple who about 20 years ago, we had Mary Kay, who was a teacher, seducing her 13-year-old student. They had an affair. She got pregnant. She went to prison for child rape for a few years, got out, pursued him again, got caught, had to go back to prison, but was pregnant for a second time. So you'll see the children here, but I'm not focusing mainly on the children. I'm focusing on Mary Kay and Vili Falau and their relationship, just to see the dynamics.
That's cute. Love it.
It all looks normal enough.
I'm just gonna keep eating.
Okay.
Mum, Dad.
Well, I didn't ask you to get in now, did I?
So, I mean, we could have just seen that as a flippant, fun-loving kind of silly thing that they have between them two. But on the get-go, what I'm noticing is that Mary Kay likes to be in control. Now, Vili said that he's just going to keep on eating and not buy into the camera game that the two girls are going into. And she's flipping that off like it was just a joke. So what I can tell right now is I find that there's a bit of a power play going on.
Two children. A picnic beside a picturesque lane.
I was pursued and I didn't think about it. I did not think about it. Didn't.
Did not think about it. Didn't. So her body language is open at the moment. It doesn't mean to say that she was telling the truth or being candid. If she didn't think about it, that looks like it would be deliberate. Find out later on in this piece that she does know what she's doing.
But that's not an excuse for any crime, is it? And I'm not saying
No,
this.
it's not.
You can't
It's
just go, I
not.
didn't think about it, see you later, sorry.
No.
Was it right? Was it wrong?
So there's a little eyebrow lift. That means he's critical of the situation, even he is.
I don't know.
Probably when you're inside it, you can't see that it's wrong. And when you're inside it, you see the things that make it work. So at this time when she was 34 pursuing Vili Falau, she had 4 children and a husband.
You were here his year 2 teacher?
He was one of my students back then. I hardly remember. Of course, I remember his name. So, and I knew the Falau family.
This would be a test of your memory, Vili. I mean, you would have been 8 or so back then. Do you have any memory of those years?
Like I remember hiding in the closet. There was a closet in the
Oh, no.
in the classroom, and then me and my friends we used to be in there hiding in the classroom.
From Mary?
Why don't you say what you were doing hiding in the
We were
closet?
just hiding in the classroom.
No, what did...
Okay, so we're looking at Mary trying to take control of the conversation. He began to go on about his side of the story, and now she's trying to control it.
did you tell me you were doing? What you said to me is like, yeah, we'd hide in the closet and we'd hope you'd walk past so we could look under your skirt. I'm like, what the heck? That's what he told me he remembered. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
So this tells me that back in the day when she was about 34, she was very attractive back then. She felt probably like a teenager herself, that people were interested in her. Maybe she was bored with her marriage or something.
I had no idea.
There was a little bit of German July. She quite enjoyed that.
It was very pretty. It was more of showing off to a cousin of mine, like betting, because used to brag about girls and this and that when we were young. Like, oh, that girl likes me. No, she doesn't. And then like, oh yeah, I'll bet you that you can't get what's her name. So I ended up taking the bet and pursued Mary.
So pursued Mary. So he's not quite sure about that.
Incredible. It's just incredible to think that what started as a bit of showing off and following through on a dare or a bet has led to, where we are now.
Mary and I became like really close, and then I kind of forgot about the bet.
When Mary did...
Now that suggests to me at that particular point there was a bit of grooming going on.
Really make it clear to you that he was interested in you physically, sexually, I guess. Can you remember that moment? You must remember that moment.
I just remember...
Self-soothing, the hair. Women do that when they're trying to soothe themselves, make them more presentable.
Yes, there was one point, and I said, put that away.
And so I don't believe that he believes that that's what happened. So that's like a laugh of what?
Meant the idea. There was a moment where he said that he did say he was in love with me, and it scared me. And
That was before anything physical between you both?
oh yeah, like, I don't know, like weeks, a month.
Mary, when did you first realise, I have feelings for a student?
I feel kind of awkward answering that because it's sort of wanting to connect.
Now, Vili changed his demeanour as soon as he mentioned student. So he's become a bit more serious here.
This was a student-teacher relationship.
Did you do anything wrong?
I've always said, it was, should I have run from him? I did at one point say,
Okay, so she didn't say yes, she didn't say no. She's not answering straight up, straight away. So she's dilly-dallying, beating around the bush, and that's what you do when you're not entirely candid.
Say you have to go.
What about your children, Mary? It must have been unimaginably tough on them.
That's why I asked him to get away from us.
So she's laughing. She's also fumbling over her words and not getting to the point. I'm not sure that I believe what she's saying right now.
Go and do your thing.
That's
I said,
making it
"Go
seem
and do
like
your
Billy
I think she still wanted him.
was relentlessly pursuing you. You were the adult.
You can say that.
I am saying that.
I was by age.
And
Let's
by
just
mature.
say-
Okay, so we close the eyes elongatedly, long blink. I was by age. So she's admitting to a degree that she was immature.
Maturity.
You maybe.
You were a teacher, Mary. You can't say.
Her demeanour is not one of candidness, so she's really not engaging fully, moving away, moving her head away, not engaging in what he's really saying.
I was immature.
But you don't know him.
No, but I don't need to know him in this discussion. He's the child.
So she's reflecting right there, back on him.
What about you?
Who was the boss?
What was that?
Who was the boss?
What?
Who was the boss back
You know,
then?
there was me pursuing you, but
Who was the boss back then?
this is ridiculous.
No,
This
who
is
was?
ridiculous.
Who was? Just say.
Okay, so even Villy finds this ridiculous. She's now fully deflecting over to Villy. Fully. He's going, what? I'm not taking all that. You were the adult.
Just say.
Who was the boss?
All I knew was what I knew back then.
But who was the boss?
He was 13, Mary.
But who was the boss?
This is getting weird.
Who was the boss?
So you can see the dynamics between the two of them all throughout his probably teenagehood into his early adulthood. She likes to control everything.
Who?
I'm pursuing the relationship.
Who was the boss?
She's trying to make him say, I did. Or I was the boss.
Well, I was the pursuer.
Yes.
Mary, even as you're hearing this now, come on, he was 13.
Doesn't matter.
It absolutely
Doesn't matter. She knows that. She does know.
matters.
She's in denial, but she knows most of herself is saying, yeah, I know the truth.
Flaw me. Flaw me as an
adult?
yes, flaw me. I did the best I could.
I mean,
Flaw me. Character flaw. Ooh.
Again, deflection, classic.
I think we spoke to each other as if in that sense.
Okay, so I'm going to slow this one down.
I think we at least.
Now, you'll notice that her mouth widened and her jaw came forward just then. She does it a couple of times.
I think we at least.
There. It's subtle and it's very quick. It means she's not sure.
We spoke to each other as if in that summer. I think we spoke to each other as if in that summer. We felt like it was boyfriend, girlfriend.
So I believe she's cognizant of her role in her age and his age, and it was a deliberate putting out of mind, out of sight their age differences.
It was boyfriend, girlfriend. It felt really great. I'm just saying it felt great because we were so close as friends. And then just to not be his teacher in
Yeah, so she's cognizant of she didn't want to be his teacher.
any capacity. And just saying, I don't know what was dramatic going on, but I mean, inside of us, probably, yeah. When we realized, I don't know, you called me your girlfriend.
I did.
He's saying, no, he didn't. She's touching her face, touching her collarbone, almost as a way to cover up her neck here, which is very vulnerable. And you can tell that she's got a bit of drooping delight, so that's not true.
When we realized, I don't know, you called me your girlfriend.
I did.
Yeah, you did.
He's saying no. He's shrugging his shoulders, closing his eyes. She's going, yeah, you did. I think she wanted that to happen.
If someone had told me, if anyone had told me, there is a specific law that says that this is a crime.
I'll say that to your face, Mary. I'll say that to you. I'm not wrestling.
Matt? If you had
So she touched her hair. She's self-soothing.
someone on here that knew Mary back then, did Mary know? Would Mary have known?
Should Mary?
And again, she's also in the third person, so she's distancing her responsibility in this.
Have known.
It's not even about should.
Of course it's about should. It's exactly about should.
I did not know. I have said this over and over again.
Did not know. Again, we're using formal language, and formal language is in statement analysis. It's like, are you being as candid as you could be?
Had I have known, if anyone knows my personality, just the idea that this would count as a crime, because you don't know our story, but we do. We do.
You should never have gone to jail.
If you knew us, and if you knew our...
Again, we've got Mary taking over the conversation, not allowing Billy to even come in and give his 2 cents worth.
The intimacies, which guess what, are nobody's business now.
I've never heard you say that before. That
Which part?
You shouldn't have gone to prison.
I did the best that I felt at the time, the decision that I made. And I tried to take
So she's got wide eyes and eyebrows go up, and she wants him to understand.
the guilty plea back when I realized I was tricked and coerced into it.
Okay, so tricked into being accused or convicted of child rape. Again, not taking responsibility.
It's just absurd to think that 13-year-olds are not having sex and they're not pursuing it in a very deliberate, knowing way. It's
Have you noticed that he's blinking quite a lot here, so he's under a little bit of stress here too.
absurd.
Not a lot of them are having sex with 34-year-olds.
No, but are they having sex?
Not relevant.
It is absolutely relevant.
Okay, so she's trying to control the conversation with the interviewer.
Are they having sex?
I don't see it as
Are they
being
having
relevant.
sex? Are they having sex?
I'm
So can you imagine this is how she would roll during her relationship? Probably with Billy.
certain that they are, but how is
Okay.
that relevant to this case?
They're not children.
So should we rip up the laws and say it's a free-for-all, 13-year-olds with whoever they like?
No, because there are cases, and it's called strict liability. There are cases where there could be abuse. There could be. So you have to have a law that acts as a deterrent, because there are people who might pursue and abuse a situation.
And we noticed that Billy looked down, so he didn't want to be a part of that conversation.
I love him more today than I did when I was in love. I hope
Now, Philly's going, what? I think she's talked herself into this, so maybe it's true.
everybody in marriage gets there.
Okay, so she's much more animated. I can't really read her mind to see if it's true or not, but she's definitely more animated.
Back at the time, at its inception, before this had evolved into something like love, wasn't this just a physical relationship between a woman and a little boy?
Well, you shouldn't say a little boy.
He was 13.
Notice how Billy moved in his seat. He was actually quite embarrassed about that.
I know, but you shouldn't say a little boy.
Well, a teenage boy.
Well, you know, some people are incarcerated in this state at age 13 and they're treated as an adult.
So there's quite a lot of deflecting away from the pointed question.
I actually dated while she was in there. I wanted to live my life. I mean, there was no contact.
Is that hard to hear, Mary?
Oh, that he dated?
We
Oh, no.
Interesting. So she repeated the question, that he dated. So she's buying time to answer.
had an agreement.
I didn't even.
What was the agreement?
And so Billy is trying to get his words out, but again, he just feels like, I feel like he's been shut down quite a bit. So he wants to speak his mind, but maybe Mary's just been too heavy-handed on him, and so he can't really speak his mind.
We did?
You were like, go.
Oh, yeah, I knew. He needed
So we had this agreement that she was going to be away for a long time, and I was going to be, not to wait to just do whatever, whatever's meant to be is going to be.
It was kind of your youth.
Yeah.
One of the things I heard was that the letter was sent that for every person you're with, you would take an inch off Billy's appendage.
That's just a rumor.
Is that a rumour, Billy?
You wouldn't normally joke about that kind of thing.
And it was a joke.
Let me ask Billy if that's
And so she touches her face, so she's insecure at the moment.
a rumour. Is that a rumour?
It was a joke in a letter that you wrote.
It was a joke.
That's a very frightening joke, let me
No.
say, as a man. That is
So he's not sure.
He admitted there are problems with their marriage.
You filed for separation. You toyed with that. Have you ever thought about actually saying this is too hard? I need to call it quits.
I have.
Is it something you still think about?
Every now and then. I don't want to talk
Okay, so he's got a few ticks coming in, little tiny ticks coming in. So he's really quite nervous,
about that.
As a 34,
and he doesn't want to talk about that.
to look back at your 13-year-old self and to give him advice as a man, what would you say?
Don't do it.
Really?
I don't know. I can't regret after my 2 daughters and the entire life that I've already lived.
This is when he becomes animated and confident when he's talking about his children.
Learned that regretful is actually a bad thing, to regret anything. Everything that's already happened was already meant to be. It's my journey through life, so.
And he does believe that.
Are you still in love?
I would say yes.
Hesitation, especially on Billy's side, on her side too.
No, I think that marriage is
So she's jumping in so she can't hear what Billy wants to say about it, or if he has something to say about it.
there's a labor I would say anyone that's married will know there's a labor of love. That term is there for a reason. So in love, I'm pretty.
I would say there's all, sorry, cutting you off. I've seen marriages where they make it work. They might have fallen out of love somewhere in the relationship.
So really he's talking about himself. Anyway, I hope I'm not too harsh on this couple, but I'm just picking up on the dynamics between the two and the body language micro-expressions. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the dialogue. Please like, share, and subscribe. Ding my bell for future notifications. Ding, ding. And check out my Patreon page. Yeah, baby.